Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by your host, me, Tai Tiger. Today we're diving into the Three Ranger Bros Studios collaborative project. This is Power Rangers Global. It takes place in Power Rangers Universe 2118. This is the Three Ranger Bros collaborative project. What does that mean exactly? This is written by myself, but all ideas in collaborative work comes from myself, Mark the Red Corners Ranger, and Cosplay Dude 637. We are the Three Ranger Bros, but of course more about my partners in the outro. Let's dive in with Power Rangers Global. Recently, the main villain Loki, who rules over all gods of all pantheons and terrorizes Earth, has been collecting pieces of black stone covering golden symbols. And in this chapter, we might find out what's been going on. And maybe our mysterious new friend Heimdall will make an appearance. Let's dive in. Power Rangers Global, Chapter 8, Party on a Pyramid. Everyone sat around Brohan, who sat there contemplating the new information that had been delivered to him. His ranger team had been fighting mythical creatures turned into monsters, with the task of hunting down specific pieces of black stone, each one covered in golden symbols, believed to be hidden by different fathers of pantheons, the likes of Zeus, Ra, and Odin. It makes so much sense, and yet it is rather baffling, Brohan sighed.
I think I'm going to hit the books and find out if there is a stone or stones matching that description,
Himiko announced, then she stood up and disappeared within the library. Great, now what are we going to do? Lip asked.
Our other theory, the mythical creatures are all hunters or predators of some kind,
Elias stated.
That broadens our search from infinite to a whole goddamn lot, which is still impossible.
Mark snapped.
So if we are right and Ra is the next one, why don't we just ask him? I mean, he follows Lip everywhere.
Eric asked. Everyone looked at Lip, who rolled his eyes. Fine. Ra, we need to talk to you, Lip muttered. Suddenly the ghostly form of the god Ra appeared before the team.
Hello, everyone.
Ra said.
Ra, did you ever hide a stone or a piece of stone?
Elias asked the god of the sun.
I am afraid my memory fails me. I do not remember anything before Loki took over.
Ra sighed.
Is there a way we can jog a spirit's memory?
Eric asked. Take him to the pyramids. Allow him to see the site of Egypt. Maybe allowing him the site of what he once ruled. Maybe it will trigger something, Brohan suggested.
Hey, it beats just sitting around here doing nothing, twiddling our thumbs. I say we try it.
Mark nodded. The boys then left the library, leaving Brohan to help Himiko search for more information as they travelled to the pyramids of Giza. They stood there and watched as Lip and Ra climbed up a pyramid.
Isn't this illegal?
Elias asked.
Look, it's only climbing a pyramid. It's not like we are committing world domination.
Mark sighed. Lip and Ra finally got to the top and looked around at the amazing view. Whoa, it's breathtaking up here, Lip gasped at the sight.
Yes, this was once mine to rule.
Ra sighed. Hey, you will rule again. Egypt, I mean, Lip told the spirit.
We chose you for a reason, Philip.
Ra nodded. Lip smiled. Then he looked out and gazed at the sunset, when suddenly something caught his eye. A winged figure flying towards them. As it got closer, Lip realized the grey bird-like monster. Hey, guys, we got something headed our way, Lip yelled.
I want Himiko to stay in these books. This one is on us, boys,
Mark told the rest of the team. Lip jumped down and joined the rest of the boys as the monster crashed onto the pyramid. It sank its claws into the pyramid and squawked at the four boys.
I am Graphite, and I'm here for the stone, so stay out of my way.
The monster yelled out.
Ha! Says every monster, every week. Same old speech. Bored now.
Eric mocked.
Let's end this. Quickly.
Mark barked.
It's morphin' time!
Mark called out. Mark held out his Cornish power morpher, and it popped open.
Kono bis ficken!
Mark called out. Then the morpher dematerialized, leaving the coin floating there. Mark then morphed into his ranger suit. His helmet formed over his head. Then the coin started spinning and it flew at Mark, hitting Mark in the chest. The coin shattered, and Mark's Cornish chest shield formed around him. Mark had morphed into the red Cornish Ranger. Eric held out his fist. His green Celtic ring started to glow.
Now you're not, Kilchuck.
Eric called out. Then he held up his fist into the air and suddenly a Celtic rune formed above him. He then lowered his arm and the rune lowered itself down and it phased over Eric, his ranger suit forming over him as the rune descended down. As the rune touched the ground, it vanished. Eric had morphed into the gold Celtic Ranger. Elias pulled off his necklace and crushed the crystal in his hand. The energy that came from the crystal formed into a sword sheathed in its shield. Elias grabbed the handle which extended from the top of the shield and pulled the sword out and held it up to the sky.
The Odenskraft Volden Veda.
Elias called out. Then the blue energy seeped out of its blade and it formed around him. Then the energy formed into his ranger suit. His horns grew from his helmet as he sheathed his sword. Elias had morphed into the blue Viking Ranger. Lip held out his arm. Ra appeared behind him and sunk his talons into his forearm. White veins rippled through his wrist and a wristbound morpher appeared in the shape of a falcon head. Lip then held out his black crystal scarab, its wings opened and the key extended. He then opened the falcon's mouth and placed the key inside and then closed the mouth down. Capra! Lip called out. Then the falcon eyes started to glow and the energy wave pulsed from his morpher and it wrapped around Lip's entire body, forming into his ranger suit. Ra, the god of the sun, then merged into Lip's body and his helmet formed around his head. Lip had morphed into the white Egyptian Ranger of Ra. The Rangers ran up the pyramid as Griffite dived down and slashed the red Cornish Ranger and the blue Viking Ranger, both of them falling down to the ground. The gold Celtic Ranger jumped up and tried striking the winged monster, but Griffite kicked out its talon-equipped feet and kicked the gold Celtic Ranger back to the ground. The Ranger of Ra took flight. After summoning his own wings, he joined Griffite in the sky and both of them exchanged blows with their claws.
Get out of my way!
Griffite howled. The Griffite then grabbed the Ranger of Ra and flew down and both of them crashed into the pyramid. Griffite then slammed his fists into the brick, breaking them. Then he started tearing away at the hole that he just made. It then reached in and pulled out a piece of the stone, the black stone with golden symbols on it.
Master, I have what you seek!
Griffite called out, holding the stone in the sky. Then in a flash of green, Loki appeared. Well done. Now give me the time that I need. Loki growled at his monster. He then took the stone. He turned to the Rangers and grinned. I shall see you in hell, Rangers, he sneered. Then in a flash of green, he disappeared. Then Griffite jumped up and spun around, slashing at the Rangers.
Brohan, Loki has got a piece of the stone and now we are fighting some bird monster.
The red Cornish Ranger barked into his communicator.
It's a griffin. Another predator. I think the stones give off scent only predators can smell. Loki has been manipulating their monster form, getting them to either find the stone under the promise of free will or making them think they're doing something else.
Himiko replied over the comms.
This thing is airborne. Lip is struggling here. How can we help?
The gold Celtic Ranger asked.
The griffin once was taken down, but a magical enhanced lance with a precision strike. We don't have a lance, but you have javelin.
Himiko told them.
I need a chance if I'm going to make this shot.
The gold Celtic Ranger muttered.
We can give you the chance.
The blue Viking Ranger said. The gold Ranger nodded. He then ran down the pyramid, and the red Cornish Ranger summoned his power bow and started firing arrows at Griffite. The blue Viking Ranger held out his sword, and the blade became encased in water, forming a whip. The blue Viking Ranger lashed the whip out at Griffite. The Ranger of Ra flew around Griffite and shot out feather blades, and Griffite did a good job fending off the three Rangers, using his wings and talons to deflect the attacks. The gold Celtic Ranger ran upside the opposite end of the pyramid, and he launched himself off the tip and jumped high into the air. He then summoned his javelin and took aim. He threw it with great precision, and the javelin flew and struck Griffite right in the heart. He soared down and crashed onto the ground, and the Rangers climbed down the pyramid and landed next to the fallen villain.
Strike me down once. Shame on me. There won't be another time.
Griffite growled. Then he started growing and growing till he became gigantic.
Eric, think you can do that again, just bigger?
The Red Cornish Ranger asked.
Now we're talking.
The gold Celtic Ranger nodded. The Red Cornish Ranger called for the Global Zords. The Knight Zord arrived on its horse. Then the Warrior Zord, the Samurai Zord, the Pharaoh Zord, and the Viking Zord also appeared next to it. The Warrior Zord and the Horse Zord combined into the torso of the Megazord. The Knight Zord and the Viking Zord became the legs, and the Samurai Zord and Pharaoh Zord became the arms to the Megazord.
Global Megazord! Warrior formation!
The gold Celtic Ranger called out as they all sat in the cockpit. The Megazord was equipped with a giant javelin. The giant Griffite flapped its wings, causing a large vacuum of wind to strike the Megazord. The Megazord stumbled back as sparks frizzled off of it. Then the Megazord ran at it and slid across the ground on its knees. It used the javelin to launch itself in the air and kick Griffite back. Then the Megazord threw the javelin and it struck the monster in the heart. Griffite fell back and exploded. The Rangers returned to the ground and demorphed. The boys all looked around and saw the griffin flying overhead as it screeched a mighty screech, then it soared off into the sunset.
There is a bright side. We have rescued a few creatures now. Loki's army is fewer now.
Elias stated.
Guys, get back here. I found what it is.
Himiko said over their communicators.
My name is Rusfa, also known as the Banker. My name is feared by many universes. And now, I'm currently working on destroying Universe 19. No Ultra Rangers, Power Rangers Cyberforce, Skyforce, hell, even those Kamen Riders, and those pesky Beetle Troopers. Nothing can get in my way. If you want to hear me destroying Power Rangers Universe 19, well, you can listen on the podcast and watch my evil excellence destroy those dumb enough to face me on the Power Rangers Universe 19 podcast. Come listen if you dare.
The boys all ran into the library, and Himiko slammed an open book on the table. The page showed a black crystal stone covered in different types of runes. Then on the opposite page was a black skull key. Himiko? What are we looking at here? Lip asked, confused.
It's the Death Stone. With the right amount of heat and with the right tools, it can be crafted into the key to the underworld.
Himiko explained.
So, Loki wants to go to the underworld.
Mark questioned.
But he has all the gods of the underworld. So why does he need a key?
Eric asked.
They share the underworld. It splits up into regions, so to speak. But there is a place for some unique souls.
Himiko told them.
Please define unique souls.
Elias asked with a gulp. Himiko just replied with a shrug of her shoulders.
Can we even get to the underworld? To stop him, I mean.
Eric asked.
Are you dead?
Himiko retorted.
No.
Eric replied.
My point is, you have to die to get to the underworld, or be a demigod or higher.
Himiko sighed.
Guys, look. This is a lot for 2 reasons. One is good. We finally know a clue in Loki's plan, and it's a good clue. We have a direction to follow. Then there's the bad news. The underworld, or hell, or whatever you want to call it. It's a dangerous place, and it's unknown territory to all of us.
Mark stated. I think we should all examine this key further, and start researching the underworld, seeing if there is a way to get there, and seeing if we can find a way to get more information on why Loki is hell-bent on getting there himself, Brohan told the group.
I'm going out. I need to clear my mind.
Mark sighed. Then Mark walked out of the Museum and Library of Ancient History. Should we follow him? Lip asked.
Let the guy clear his head. Come on, let's help Rohan and Himiko with the books.
Eric replied. Lip and Elias joined Eric in helping the research about the underworld, whilst Himiko and Brohan continued a search on information about the key. Hey! What do you think you're doing? Listening to this filth? You should be listening to the Zero to Hero podcast right this instant. It will give you the brain-numbing, blood-pumping thrill that drinking 12 espressos, 12 shots of vodka, and looking at a unicorn for the first time would give you. I swear to God, Billy and Jim pour their blood, their sweat, their tears, and the gold that they found in the Garden of Eden into their podcast. And you sit here, you're not listening to it. Are you insane? Go over to the Zero to Hero podcast now and listen to it. God damn it, I have to do everything around here. Ugh. Mark walked until he reached the beach. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. He then summoned his power sword and started to swing it around as he took a defensive stance. He took in a deep breath before front flipping and slamming the sword down into the sand. He then jumped up and spun around and swung the sword again.
You should be careful with that.
A voice called out. Mark stopped, then turned around, hiding the hilt of the power sword behind him from sight.
Sorry, I was trying to clear my head.
Mark sighed.
Hey friend, it's okay. I was just saying there are families who walk these beaches.
The man replied with a small smile. Then he walked up to Mark and sat on a rock beside him. Mark rubbed his power coin on the hilt of the power sword, and it triggered its glamour ability, making it so everyone who was not linked to the morphin grid could not see its true nature. To the normal eye, it looked like a normal sword. Then Mark walked up to the stranger and sat down next to him.
So you say you had to clear your head? Well, this beach would be a good place for it.
The man smiled.
I will admit, this is a nice spot.
Mark replied.
You got a name? Or if you tell me, do I meet the tip of your blade?
The man asked with a chuckle.
Name's Mark. Nice to meet you.
Mark introduced himself, holding out his hand.
My friends call me Heimdall. Nice to meet you, Mark.
The man replied, shaking his hand.
So, what brings you here, Heimdall?
Mark asked curiously.
Well, one of my businesses are here. I own a bookstore for old and forgotten tales.
Heimdall told him.
I recently moved here, so I'm new, I guess.
Mark replied with a sigh.
You know, a problem shared is a problem halved, or however that saying goes.
Heimdall said with a soft smile.
I have a team, and I'm the leader. But the last time I had a team, I failed them. And every time a chance has appeared for me to make a new team, I had to say no, just in case. Now I have said yes, and I know eventually things ain't going to go well. I don't think I can handle losing another team.
Mark explained. He suddenly felt at ease with Heimdall.
Strange question, but bear with me. If you went to Italy and ordered an apple pie, and it comes to you burnt, apples are sour, and the worst food experience of your life, you swear it could have killed you, it was that bad. Then, when you go to France, you see apple pies, but these pies look perfectly cooked and smells to die for. Do you take the chance and try the new, nice apple pie, or do you refuse because of the one time that you had the worst experience with apple pie?
Heimdall asked Mark. Mark looked at the sand. He nodded his head and sighed.
Yeah, I understand. I can't let the past affect me, right?
Mark asked back. He turned to look at Heimdall, but Heimdall was gone. Mark looked around for the strange individual, but he was nowhere to be seen. Then Mark's communicator started beeping. He picked up the power sword and it disappeared in a spark of light. He then answered his communicator.
Lip, why are you calling me on a private channel?
Mark answered. Himiko has more information about the key to the underworld, Lip replied.
We need a private channel just for that?
Mark asked. No, I need to tell you something, but only you can know, okay? Because there's a terrible plan, but it may be the only one we got, Lip told him.
Okay, I have a feeling I'm not gonna like this.
Mark sighed. Oh, you're definitely not gonna like it, but I think I know how to get into the underworld, Lip told Mark. Mark sighed one last time and then headed back to the Museum and Library of Ancient History.
Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger, was played by Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger. Elias, the Blue Viking Ranger, was played by Cosplay Sun 637. Himiko, the Pink Japanese Ranger, was played by Cosplay Wife 637. Eric, the Gold Celtic Ranger, was played by Cosplay Dude 637. Lip, the Ranger of Raw, was played by Tai Tiger. And Heimdall was played by me, Jared.
This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zio to Hero, the podcast.
Thank you very much for listening to this chapter. If you want to hear more fanfictions and storylines, I have plenty of other Tiger Tales channels that you guys should be checking out. I'm going to give you a list of all of them. There's Tiger Tales, the channel that started it all. There's Tiger Tales The Lost Stories, a channel dedicated to storylines with the first person view. Tiger Tales Game Over, a channel dedicated to video game storylines. Tiger Tales X, official crossover fanfictions co-on this channel. Tiger Tales Mysterious Origins, all my original storylines coming from myself go on that one. Then you have Tiger Tales One-Offs, a Tiger Tales channel dedicated to one-off storylines that have no continuation. We've also now expanded to podcasts, so make sure you check out everywhere you can listen to your podcast, the Fiction Fighters podcast, where you'll find a storyline called the Fiction Fighters, where fiction is power. I want to use this moment to thank all my supporters and the partners of Tiger Tales. First off, make sure you check out Cosplay Dude 637. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of all the places you can find him and where you can listen to his fanfictions. First off, there's Power Rangers Universe 19, a podcast dedicated to Power Rangers and Kamen Rider storylines. You'll also find a few of my stories on there too. Then, you also got Sailor Moon E, a Sailor Moon dedicated podcast storyline. Then you have The Order. Cosplay Dude 637's original storyline goes on this podcast. Then you have the One Piece audio drama YouTube channel, an audio drama dedicated to One Piece. Then you have Nostalgia Time, a YouTube channel dedicated to all fanfictions and storylines that are meant to make you feel nostalgic. You also have Marvel Universe 19, where you'll find Marvel related fanfictions. You can also find some of my storylines there too. Now, of course, me and Cosplay Dude 637 are part of a studio called the Three Ranger Bros Studios, so I'd like to mention the third member, Mark the Red Cornish Ranger, and his podcast, Naruto Comics, where he adapts comic books into audio dramas, and you can also find his original Power Ranger storylines there as well. A quick shout out to a few of my supporters. We have the If You Give a Dad a Podcast host Jared, make sure you check out his podcast, he interviews some amazing guests. The Zero to Hero podcast, the Bolt and Scholar podcasting, Billy and Jim, of course have been there since the get-go, so make sure you check out the Zero to Hero podcast. Some of my stories wouldn't be here without the Author's Crown YouTube channel's host, A Crown, so make sure you check out the Author's Crown YouTube channel with his fanfictions there. Now, if you'd like to hear me interview content creators about their content, or geek about specific topics with a bunch of geeks, make sure you check out the Tiger Nexus podcast. My podcast can be found everywhere you can find your podcast, and we have a great time. We usually upload on Mondays. Now, of course, make sure you check out the links down below. It'll lead you to some of my other channels. I game on YouTube, I do artwork on YouTube, and I like to talk about movies, TV shows, and comic books on YouTube. So make sure you go check out the other channels. A huge thank you to everyone watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and of course hit that notification bell so you don't miss another chapter. Roar of passion, everybody, and I shall see you guys in the next one.
That before we can...
Don't touch my Pringles.